At first, we laughed. The bald head, the dad bod, the how is this guy in the NBA energy? But then he locked down James Harden. Then Steph. Then Nikola Jokić, the literal MVP of the league.
High and off the Caruso parachutes in!
He went from G League ghost to meme material, to the man guarding your favorite player in Game 7 of the most crucial game in the NBA playoffs. This is not just a comeback story, this is Alex Caruso, the meme who became a menace.
Shannon seeing his first minutes here in Game 5. There's another turnover. Caruso does it again, and is fouled by Reed.
Let's be honest, nobody saw this coming. Alex Caruso didn't walk into the NBA with a mixtape, a hype train, or an entourage. He walked in undrafted. 4 years at Texas A&M, solid numbers and solid defense, but nothing flashy. No lottery pick buzz, no ESPN headlines. He didn't even get his name called on draft night. And when you go undrafted, the NBA doesn't owe you anything. Caruso had to start where most give up, the G League. He grinded with the Oklahoma City Blue and later the South Bay Lakers. Long bus rides, half-full gyms, no guarantees. Every single day was a fight just to stay in the room. And here's the thing, he wasn't flashy even there. No viral dunks, no crazy scoring nights. What he did was defend, rotate, make the extra pass, set screens that nobody noticed. But coaches did. The Lakers took a chance, not a big one, just a two-way contract in 2017. He was 23 years old, still balding, still doubted. But when he finally stepped onto the NBA floor, something clicked. Caruso didn't look like he belonged, but he played like he did. He knew where to be. He knew how to switch. He made veteran reads on rookie legs. Still, the league treated him like a gimmick. He became a meme, the bald Mamba. The guy Twitter loved because it was crazy to see him
Caruso
dunk.
wide open, nobody near him.
But Caruso was never chasing attention. He was just playing basketball the right way. And behind the jokes, behind the memes, behind the viral edits, the real story had already begun. A player the league didn't want was about to become the exact kind of player every team would regret not keeping. He went from being the unexpected hero in the biggest games of his career to being expendable, playing for the Lakers. That's the thing about momentum. It doesn't always guarantee loyalty. Caruso had just helped the Lakers win their first title in a decade in the crazy 2020 NBA bubble in Orlando. He had earned the respect of fans, teammates, and coaches, and even the king himself, LeBron James. But when it came time for contract talks, that respect didn't translate into commitment. In 2021, Caruso hit free agency. He didn't want to leave. He even gave the Lakers a discount window, a chance to match or get close to the Bulls' offer. The Bulls put down 4 years, $37 million. The Lakers, they offered $15 million over 2 years. That wasn't just low, it was insulting, especially for a guy who had started in the NBA Finals, who had guarded Jimmy Butler on the biggest stage, who had become a cornerstone of their perimeter defense. Let's be real, this wasn't about talent. It was about how much they thought his type of contribution mattered, and they were wrong. Caruso took the Bulls' offer, not because he wanted to leave LA, but because LA told him loud and clear he wasn't worth it. After the disappointment of his departure from Los Angeles, after the headlines cooled and the memes faded, Alex Caruso found himself in a new city wearing a new jersey, but carrying the same identity. Undervalued, overlooked, and underestimated. But unlike before in Chicago, he didn't have to fight for recognition in the shadow of superstars or a championship narrative. He had room to breathe. He had a franchise that wanted him. And almost immediately, the Bulls found out exactly what the Lakers had let go. Caruso wasn't there to be a highlight machine. He wasn't there to chase stats or pad his numbers. He was there to do what he'd always done best, win possessions, control tempo, and anchor a defense without ever needing the spotlight to shine on him. And for a team like the Bulls, who were trying to find their identity in a post-Jimmy Butler, post-Rose era, Caruso gave them something you can't buy in free agency: toughness, discipline, and defensive structure with a champion's heart. He brought a winning culture to a team that had lost it a long time ago. He quickly became one of the most important players in their rotation, not because he scored a ton of points or dazzled with flashy moves, but because every minute he played had purpose. Every screen he fought through, every switch he executed, every rotation he made, it was all intentional. He was the kind of player who made other players better just by sharing the floor with them. In Chicago, Caruso ranked near the top of the league in deflections, steals per 36 minutes, and defensive win shares. He was the guy coaches trusted to guard the opposing team's best player, regardless of position.
Blocked away by Caruso.
One night it was Trae Young, the next it was Jason Tatum, and somehow he held his ground. It wasn't magic, it was IQ, timing, grit that he earned from his time with LeBron James and the Lakers. He'd learned how to weaponize his instincts. He could read angles, sense hesitation, and anticipate where the ball was going before it got there. And when he went for it, whether it was a strip at the top of the key or a help side block at the rim, it was almost always clean, precise, and disruptive. He didn't just defend players, he dismantled offensive sets. But as great as he was in Chicago, the ceiling of that Bulls team never quite aligned with his ambition. They were good, but not great. Competitive, but not contenders. And Caruso, he was too valuable to be stuck in a rebuild limbo. And that's when Oklahoma City called. A young, dynamic team built on speed, skill, and versatility, but still missing that one crucial element that separates playoff teams from championship contenders: experience, defensive maturity, leadership. Caruso didn't just fill that void, he redefined it. Replacing Josh Giddey in the rotation was a natural fit for him. At 31, he walked into a locker room where nearly every teammate was still figuring out who they were in this league. Chet Holmgren hadn't played a full season yet. Jalen Williams was still climbing. Josh Giddey was evolving. And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, a superstar, no question, but even he had never made it past the second round. But then there was Caruso, scarred from battles, grounded by years of being doubted, and decorated with a championship ring he earned by doing the dirty work no one else wanted. And from day one in OKC, that presence mattered. He brought what the young Thunder didn't know they needed: championship swagger. He changed the tone of practices. He raised the intensity in shoot-arounds. He demanded accountability on defense, and didn't hesitate to challenge teammates, not with ego, but with credibility. He wasn't barking orders from a podium. He was diving for loose balls during walkthroughs and taking charge in preseason games. And when a game got tight in the fourth quarter, Caruso's fingerprints were all over it. Whether it was a rotation that closed a shooter, a steal that turned into a fast break layup, or just a huddle where he reminded everyone to trust the system. The result? One of the most historic runs in recent NBA memory. The 2024-25 Oklahoma City Thunder didn't just win, they dominated. They became the youngest team in NBA history to reach 60 wins. They became the youngest number 1 seed in either conference since 1971. And in a league where most people said young teams can't defend, Caruso helped them become one of the most fearsome defensive units in the league. And the irony? He didn't start every game. He didn't need to, because Caruso's value didn't live in box scores. It lived in adjustments, in trust, in the moments that don't go viral but swing a series. He was the glue, and if you ask any Thunder player, they'll tell you that the tone of that locker room changed the moment Caruso walked in. But everything, every hustle play, every culture shift, every inch of respect he had clawed back since leaving LA, It all set the stage for one defining moment. Game 7, Western Conference Semifinals. OKC versus the reigning champions, the Denver Nuggets. And standing in front of Caruso, quite literally, was the two-time MVP and arguably the most unstoppable offensive player in the modern NBA, Nikola Jokić. A 6'11" offensive genius with footwork like a ballerina and vision like a quarterback. And Caruso? Barely 6'4", listed as a guard. But what happened in that game defied every expectation, and that's where we go next. But before we talk about that, please hit the subscribe button. Thank you. By the time Oklahoma City walked into Game 7 against the Denver Nuggets, most people expected it to be the end of the road. The Nuggets were the defending champions. Nikola Jokić was still Nikola Jokić, two-time MVP, offensive system all by himself, the most unguardable player in the league. Nobody had figured him out. Not in the regular season, not in the playoffs, until now. Because when that ball was tipped in Game 7, something was different. Jokić wasn't facing a traditional big. He wasn't facing a switch-heavy front line or a double-team bluff. He was facing Alex Caruso, all 6'5", 186 pounds of him. A guard on the best offensive big man in the world. And at first, it didn't make sense. Why would Thunder coach Mark Daigneault put a guard on Jokić in the most important game of the season? But the truth is, the decision didn't start in Game 7. It had been tested in Game 6, and before that, seeded months ago in a regular season game back in November. Caruso had seen minutes against Jokić before, small stints, situational matchups, and while most saw it as a mismatch, Daigneault saw something else. Jokić couldn't get comfortable. Because Caruso didn't defend with size, he defended with tempo, with anticipation, with relentless disruption. From the very first quarter of Game 7, Caruso made it clear, Jokić would not have space. He wouldn't have time. And every pass, every pivot, every attempt to establish rhythm would be contested, not by force, but by positioning, footwork, angles, and constant pressure. On the second possession alone, Caruso fronted Jokić in the post. Murray looked to feed him but hesitated. Why? Because Russ was the inbounder. Caruso's positioning had already triggered a helper to sag into the passing lane. That one decision, who inbounded the ball, allowed OKC to deny the post and force Denver into a broken possession. Jokić tried to reset it, screened, slipped, but every time he got a touch, Caruso was already attached to his hip or stepping in front to take away the lane. And when Jokić finally got the ball in scoring position, Caruso didn't panic. He didn't overcommit. He waited, then stripped him clean and led a fast break the other way. This wasn't physical dominance. It was defensive intelligence at its highest level. Every rotation was deliberate. Every gamble was calculated. Caruso even took risks most defenders won't, like fronting in the post without help behind him, trusting his timing, knowing when the entry pass would come, and knowing how to disrupt it without fouling. You could see it in how frustrated Jokić got. One moment, Caruso boxed him out by simply getting under his hips early. The next, he was poking passes loose. On another play, he denied the post with a light clamp behind the back, technically a foul, but subtle enough for refs to let it slide. And that was part of it too. Caruso knew exactly where the line was and danced on it all game. There were sequences that looked like wrestling matches. Arm bars, hip checks, subtle nudges, yet somehow Caruso stayed within the margin of legality. Even Ronnie Nunn, a former NBA ref and rules official, acknowledged that much of what Caruso did was marginal contact. Smart, disruptive, but not reckless. The Nuggets, on the other hand, had no plan. They didn't adjust their entry angles. They didn't counter with off-ball movement. They didn't even consistently exploit the mismatch when Caruso was guarding Jokić. Instead, they let OKC's defensive scheme dictate the pace. And Caruso was the engine of that scheme. What was even more incredible, when the Nuggets did get the ball to Jokić at his sweet spots, like the nail or the low block, Caruso stayed glued to him. And on one of the most telling plays of the game, Jokić spun into the lane. Caruso absorbed the contact and forced a wild fadeaway that clanged off the backboard. Clean contest, 0 foul. There were fouls that weren't called. There were bumps that should have gone the other way. Nuggets fans were furious, but the tape shows what happened. Caruso stayed disciplined, and Denver failed to punish the switch. And when OKC went up 20 midway through the third and Jokić missed another contested shot with Caruso in his chest, you could feel the game slipping. The Nuggets had no answer. Caruso had broken the rhythm of a team built on rhythm. He had stripped their timing, neutralized their advantage, and mentally drained one of the most poised players in the game. This wasn't a one-off performance. This was the result of years of understanding the nuances of defense. Reading feet, watching hips, timing helps rotations. This was the masterclass. By the end of the night, Jokić had his lowest playoff scoring total in 2 years, 5 turnovers and no rhythm. The Thunder advanced, and Caruso, he didn't flex, he didn't trash talk, he just jogged off the court, quiet, focused, and once again, completely misunderstood by the box score. Because this is what he does. He changes games without needing attention, but at that moment, there was no ignoring it. He wasn't just a meme anymore. He wasn't just a role player. He was the defensive anchor on a team 2 wins away from the NBA Finals, and with them 2-0 up in the finals, they have a good chance of doing that. And now, the only question left was this. Could Caruso do it again and help OKC win it all? At the time of recording this, they are up 2-0 on Minnesota, and a trip to the finals and championship seems inevitable. Well, what do you think? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you.